Hi there, my name is Jess Ratty and I'm here today really excited about the fact that I've got Toby McCartney with me from MacRebur. And some of you might know Toby's pretty famous in his own right. He might not want to agree to that, but he is. Toby's company was the winners of Voom 2016, so flat out on the stage with Sir Richard Branson himself, and basically an absolute business maverick. So Toby's with me on this live broadcast at the moment, and I've got some questions for Toby to help you guys out there who are coming in for Voom this year to find your feet a little bit, understand a little bit where you're going for the next week before the voting closes. So Toby, I guess your brand stands for itself, and before we go into the details on Voom and what you can do, I just really want to ask you, at any point when you started your Voom journey yourself, did you ever imagine you'd end up standing on a stage with Sir Richard Branson receiving this amazing award? Absolutely not. It was a complete shock. I didn't enter the competition to actually win it. I know that sounds bizarre. I just entered because I'd had a crush on Richard for so many years, and I thought it would be nice if I did get to meet him. And actually, that wasn't the first time that I met him. It was a fluke meeting out in Mallorca one year when I was on holiday with my wife, and he walked past the same restaurant that we were sat in. So I felt like we were kind of brothers from that point on. And then, yeah, I had no idea that I'd meet him again in the Voom competition. It was amazing. That's brilliant. So it's that's incredible that you met and you saw him. I mean, did you run out and go, "Hey, Richard"? In truth, I did actually. He did. Half an hour later, he came and sat 2 tables down in the same restaurant that we were sat in. I mean, I was so excited. A little bit of wee came out. I was just like, so I did. I went over to his table, and at 1,000 miles an hour, I started to speak to him. And you know what happened? He just looked up and he said, "Pull up a chair." Well, I've never pulled up a chair quicker than in that moment and sat down. And I spent 2.5 hours. This was at the time that Northern Rock and you know, we were hitting the crash in the UK. He was talking about Northern Rock and all the business that was happening back then. And it was just a great 2.5 hours spent just chatting to him about random business things that I knew nothing about. That's incredible. How many people in the world can say that they've done that? And then you go on to win Voom. That's it. Toby, that's amazing. So for those people who haven't had the opportunity to warm Richard up via dinner in Mallorca, there's a lot of people out there that are literally petrified right now. They're running around like headless chickens. They're trying to get as many votes as possible. Those that are crowdfunding are trying to raise funds. And there's tons of noise online and loads of chat. And I just wondered, what was it, do you think, about MacRebur that made you guys stand out the crowd? How did you get those votes in? And also, you know, how did you keep your head when all around you were losing theirs? Yeah, I think we did lose our head at that point. It was a crazy last week. In fact, I think we about 6 days in before the quarterfinals, as it was then, now the semi-finals, it was we just relaxed too much, or I relaxed too much. And actually, my wife and I had booked to go in the caravan up into Scotland. So I think we were sitting around about 18th in the rankings of the votes, and we went up to Scotland, and I had very little Wi-Fi while I was up there, and I logged in and I saw that we'd fallen back to about the 50th or 52nd. So I rushed home. I left the holiday and I came back, and I was frantically on social media and trying to get the votes up. And I think in the end we came out about 6th in that round. So it's just all hands on deck, and it's non-stop really. It's you can't let it go for a minute. It became almost like an addiction. That's what you just said there is really interesting, because you'd gone from the top of the leaderboard down to the bottom and back up again. And actually, that's probably really useful for a lot of people that are out there trying to get those votes in at the moment, because they'll be thinking, oh, I've slipped a few spaces, or I've gone up a few spaces. I might be feeling a bit pretty right now. most importantly, maybe don't go on holiday when you do. But did you have a big team at the time, or was it just a couple of you? Like, how many people did you have on the decks?
Well, there were three of us in the business at that time, but it was down to me really. The whole Voom competition was all the marketing that we did, and I think what swung it back from being at 52nd, I think we fell to, back into 6th place, was we got in touch with a lot of groups that were out there on the social media sites that could persuade people to vote for us. So we got in touch with like cycling groups and motorbike groups and said, listen, we know potholes are a problem for you. We can help solve the pothole problem if you vote for us and get us the opportunity anyway to go and pitch to Rich and the rest of the team. So it was really that last sort of week that swung it for us really. But it was, like you say, it was completely frantic. It became this obsession that I just had to get into the top 10. That was my target. I just needed to be in the top 10.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And quite interesting that you say you reached out to a load of other groups. Was that on Facebook or on any particular platform? You know, yeah. Also, lots of different businesses will have their own target markets, won't they? It's always worth thinking. I have to be honest, Toby, I didn't think, oh yeah, potholes, roads, those people are going to want, you're providing a solution to more than just the general population. So you targeted your audience quite carefully. That's really clever.
Yeah, it was, yeah, I mean, there were two audiences, the environmentalists and then the cyclists and the motorbike groups that were out there. And we found those mainly on Facebook. But at the time, back in 2016, it was all had to go through LinkedIn. So the voting system was all through LinkedIn. So we had to send people from Facebook and Twitter into the LinkedIn site in order to vote for us. So there was a little bit of jiggery pokery in there. But yeah, so we appealed to the environmentalists, and then we appealed to the pothole haters, and you know, the cyclists, etc. And that was what did it for us, really.
That's brilliant. And did anything not work? So you're plugging away at your marketing. Were there things that you came up against that you were thinking, oh, this isn't giving me the traction I need, or oh, damn, it's not working, you know, stuff like that? Was there anything, so maybe we could help a few people not go down the same road of the things that didn't work? There was
it's called Cumbria Crack, and we're based up in Cumbria and Dumfriesshire. That's where our offices are. And there's a site called Cumbria Crack, which is it gives you all the news on everything that happens in Cumbria. So we got in touch with them, and they did a lot of marketing for us, which was great. But I think we over-egged it. We were starting to almost spam people. So I would say there is definitely a fine line between getting to the same people over and over again, because you need to do that to get their votes. But at the same time, you don't want to. I think what we did was we over-egged it, and we annoyed a lot of people by just putting it in their face who had already voted. So it's a difficult task, but there's definitely that fine line there.
You have to be a terrier on all types of vote raising or crowdfunding in particular, you know, because you've got to get that percentage of people that say they'll do it, or especially when you're crowdfunding, oh yeah, I'll pledge on payday, and you have to keep asking. So it is a fine line, and one that I guess is quite bespoke to whatever audience or whoever you're going out to, whatever business it is. I'm quite interested about like how you sort of went from in the voting process, how you went from a team of 3. Did you each have different tasks, or was it just you on the Voom? So giving inspiration to those who might be a part of a team, but actually one person is plugging away over here and the rest are doing the general business stuff.
Yeah, well, the other two guys, my business partners, Nick and Gordon, they had their day jobs, if you like, in the business. So it was just at the time that we were just starting. So they were doing the real hard work while I was attempting to enter this competition that we didn't really know a great deal about at this point. And I don't think we necessarily understood how much work we had to put in order to eventually win it. But in order to get those votes in order to get to the semi-finals at this stage, So they were doing the day jobs. They were doing the really hard work, all the emails and the admin and the, you know, we were coming up with products at that time. So we hadn't got a road laid at the time that we entered Voom. So we were desperately trying to get in touch with councils and asphalt manufacturers. And of course, the Voom competition, if you like, took me out of the business for really a good couple of months. So it was just hard work. There's a saying that I take from school. It's I used to have it on my school emblem, and it's nil sin labor, and that's what I found. What it means is nothing without hard work, and that's what I found in everything that we do in our business. And it started with the Voom competition. Nothing without hard work. As soon as we relaxed, everything went to hell, really. So we had to quickly counter that and put in the hard work.
That's what I've learned as well, being an entrepreneur myself. You know, it never stops.
It never stops.
And also that startup nature of things. You know, you might not have all the answers straight away. You didn't even have a road down, but you did know where you were going, and you had your vision and your ambition, and you didn't stop. And that's inspirational for everyone. Would you say it's still the same slog now? You're still slogging away, it's still the same hard work, the grind?
Yeah, I think it's. I think the pressure mounts, and it doesn't get smaller, it gets bigger. The more that you deal with, the more sort of, well, maybe it's just a personal thing, but I know it's the same for my directors as well. All three of us put the pressure on each other as well as ourselves. So I don't think it stops. It's definitely not an easy route. I think an easier route is to go and get a job and work for somebody else. But I think when you've got a passion and when you've got a cause, and that's what I like really about our business, is it's a real passion and it's a real cause. It isn't just a business. For all of us involved in the team now, it's we all have the same values. We're all searching for the same things and fighting for the same cause. And I think that's really important, and that should be important for every business that's entering Voom for this time round. It's I think those that will go through to the semi-finals and then onto the finals will be those that have a cause, that are creating some environmental or social change or innovation that the world needs. And I think if you've got that, putting in the work is no problem at all.
Yeah, that's exactly. I think you've hit the nail on the head there, because it's about how you're going to change the world, isn't it? And in whatever you're doing, it doesn't have to be an environmental business or whatever. If it's disruptive, if it's changing the world for some way, shape or form in the better for people, for the environment, for the seas, you know, whatever, like people will get passionate, and you'll pick up on that passion as you go. So back to the actual Voom process. I could talk to you all day, Toby, about business. I love it. Back to the Voom process. How did it work? So you added your project and you started getting votes, and then what happened?
Yeah, so, well, we produced our video, we put all the text online, and then we started to get votes in. And they came through kind of steady. We were watching the ranking, if you like. We started out way at the bottom, and we worked up and we worked up, and we used mainly social media. And in every conversation with anybody that we had, it was, please vote for us at the end of the conversation. And we started to increase in the ranking. And as I say, I think we got to about around 6 or 8 at the time that we thought, well, that's it. We'll relax now. We made it. And at the time in 2016, we had to get into the top 80. I think it's the top 40 this time. So there's even more pressure on for these guys entering this year. But we got into the top 80, and we sort of relaxed, and we all went away and did our own thing. And I managed to get some Wi-Fi from up in Scotland somewhere, where I was in Pitlochry. I was in a caravan, and I'm there on my phone, standing on one leg with the phone out the window. And I saw that we'd dropped way back. So I panicked. I came home. And then it was more social media stuff that we did. And a lot of the time before the last sort of week, we also put in some pitches. So we went to various different companies, and we pitched what it was that we thought that we had at the time. I remember at that time for us, it was really a concept. We didn't have a proper business. It was it was an idea that we thought might work, but there was a lot of research that went into that idea, but there were no roads down. We had a barrage of people telling us it wouldn't work and it would be a load of old rubbish. Well, it is a load of old rubbish, but we're able to use that rubbish to our advantage, huh? So there was all of this sort of stuff happening, and I guess we weren't at that time confident that what we had would work out. So we were still in the unknown when we went for the Voom competition. It was just, let's see how far we get, and let's go for it.
And that's brilliant advice for anyone who's going to be taking part, because everybody's going to be in different stages of their business. You might have some established ones that are looking to launch a new product, or you might have people that are just, I've got this burning desire and idea to get out on the ground.
Yeah.
So I'd like to prepare a few people about what happens if they do get into the top 40, and you're going to be a judge, Toby, aren't you? So some people are going to end up standing in front of you, pitching their ideas, just like you did a few years ago. And have you got any advice on what it's like, or tell us about what it's like to stand on stage and pitch your business?
It's petrifying. It is petrifying, but I think the thing is that I think those that will go through to the finals, through to the semi-finals, through to the finals, and then will eventually win it, I think, are those that can maintain their own values whilst they pitch. I think that's so important. And looking back over the pitches that I did, from a public speaking perspective, I don't think I did the best job, I'll be honest with myself. I could have done better, like my old school reports used to say. But I believe that as well as the idea and the innovation and what it is that we've got, I think it was really about just being true to myself and delivering my values in terms of, when I look back at the pitch, it wasn't necessarily a pitch as in that you might read online. It was, I told a lot of stories, very true stories, about how I came up with the idea, how the concept came about, and how I met with my now business partners and how we formed a business together. And it was those stories, I think, that ignited the passion of others to vote for us and then to vote for us in the final. So it was a constant sort of check-in with my own values to make sure that I was still living them, that I was still talking about them, and the passion for what it is that we do, cleaning up the world's plastics and solving the problems that we've got with our infrastructure, our roads infrastructure. That passion, I think, came out when I delivered my pitches and my speeches and the videos that we put together. And I think that's what won it for us, rather than just having a good idea and pitching it in the traditional sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Again, it comes back to the passion. And as many people say, the why behind your business, I think, the guys behind Apple, Steve Jobs, would always say, it's not about the product, it's about the why we're doing it. And I think that's really valuable for all the businesses out there.
Yeah, I like the why. I like the why question, but the why question for us, when people, because as soon as you start with this competition, as soon as you enter into the competition, you're telling the world, this is what I think is a great idea. What do you think? And I think a lot of people, it's human nature, I suppose, they'll be first to tell you that it's a rubbish idea, it'll never work, and people have already thought about it, and they'll give you all the negatives. And I think the why question, what that did for us is it gave us more reasons why it wouldn't work. So between the three of us, we changed that why question into what if? What if it could work? What if it was a brand new idea that nobody on earth had thought of? What if the councils would accept it? What if the various environmental groups would love it? And by changing that question of why, we turned it into what if. And I guess this is going to sound cheesy, but what we did was we dared to dream. That what if question enabled us to do that. We dreamed bigger than we've ever dreamed before, and the results are, well, we won it, and here we are today.
So I think you can be as cheesy as you like, Toby, because you won it, and it got you there. So I think that's brilliant. I'm just going to just check my questions to make sure that I've asked you everything. I think, oh, that's it. So you didn't do rewards-based crowdfunding. So you did the other side of the business thing. What were your top? I mean, you've talked about social media. You've talked about asking what if we got that far, if we got to the stage. What about the very basic marketing things? Did you go to the press? Do you have a social media plan? Did you have marketing rules, anything like that?
Yeah, we well, as part of the win from Voom, we got a lot of marketing with groups like JC&Co, and that was wonderful for us because we timed that in at the same time. Most of our marketing went out when we went out for crowdfunding. So although we didn't have a product that people would necessarily want to buy. There's not many people wanting to buy a road, so we went through equity-based crowdfunding. And for our first raise, we're going out for a second raise in June through the same people, through Cedars. And the group, what the marketing did for us was we told the world, this is what we've got, and we need some finance in order to create the products that we need to sell on, and the infrastructure and the offices and the staff that we now have and the whole lot. So we went out for our first round in February 2017. By the time that finished, and we've used a lot of that money to make the business that we now have. We're going out again in June. June the 22nd is when the launch of that crowdfunding is, because now we went from the UK-based business into now a worldwide business. We've got now more roads down around the world than we've got actually in the UK, which is another story. So the business is building, and that crowdfunding for us was just marvelous. We did actually go to see a number of VCs at the time, and they would ask us ridiculous questions like, well, why don't you just put new plastics into the roads? And we thought, well, you're missing the whole point in the business. So we'd had such a great result from the initial rounds in Voom to get the crowd voting for us. We thought, why don't we just go out to the crowd again? They're the people that supported us in the first place. Maybe they would support us by investing in us. And in the end of that round of our first round, we had 1,200 investors through the crowd platform, and that's just growing and growing and growing. And people email us to say, how can I get involved? How can I invest? So crowdfunding for us was absolutely marvelous. It was definitely the right way to go, and it's definitely the right way for us to go for our second round in June.
That's really exciting. I mean, you've just sort of piqued me to my second question, which is, what did you get out of Voom? At the end of the day, you won it. You met Richard again, and you learned a lot about how to grow your business and how to hold on to your values. But you know, what else as a whole, maybe as a person and as a business, did you learn from Voom, and what do you carry with you to this day?
Yeah, I think, I mean, the team that we met at Voom have been absolutely fantastic. To be honest, we're still very good friends. We communicate all the time, and I'm looking forward to seeing them, a lot of them again, when we come through to the semi-finals and then the finals. As well as that, you know, and meeting Richard and the publicity that we got from that, we're in every newspaper. We've had the BBC. Documentaries produced on us, Sky TV, you name it. So the marketing side was stunning. And then, of course, without the crowdfunding, we wouldn't have been able to invest in the infrastructure and the staff and the office that we have and the warehouse and the rest of the business. It just wouldn't exist without that. So I think those three things alone were worth entering Voom for. There's the secondary gain that we get from the competition. It gives us, or it gave us, a lot of kudos that we didn't have when we were simply a concept. So, you know, we could use the, although we're not Virgin branded, we can use the name of winning the Virgin Media Voom competition. And that gave us the kudos that we didn't have when it was just, you know, Toby, Nick and Gordon with this idea. So I think there's a lot that that we got that wasn't publicized as prize giving, if that makes sense. So the kudos, I think, is goes a long way for us, and has done from the Voom competition.
And I think that's from personal experience, having worked with a lot of people who've been a part of Voom since it was created. Nobody has ever come back to me and said it was a bad thing to do.
Yeah.
You won it. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people take part in it, with their teams, with their votes, with their crowdfunding. Every single person comes back and says, it was just the most amazing experience. We learned so much from it. We took away so much from it. There's this one amazing lady who made these incredible wallpapers, like tactile wallpapers. And she was just like, I've launched my business through this, you know?
Yeah, I'm good friends with the other competitors in the final of Voom. Good friends with them, and their businesses are doing so well. And it's you know, part of that is off the back of the Voom competition. They didn't win it, but they didn't necessarily need to, you know.
Yeah, and they definitely didn't lose it, because that's not really a word. Okay, so I guess if you could leave us with one line or two for those people that might be watching this right now, that might be absolutely freaking out, sweating, feeling like you were 2 years ago, what would it be?
I think, you know, if you've got something there, it might just be a concept. It might already be a business. If you've got something there that's innovative, that could change the world in some ways, and as cheesy as it says, change people's lives, then I think just hold true to who you are with that vision. And when you go and pitch, just pitch with your stories, your true stories, your examples of your life and your experiences that relate to that business. Keep it nice and simple. Don't bamboozle us with all of these business concepts. You don't need to read all of these business idea books. If you've got a good idea, you know, bring it forward, pitch it, talk to us like we're normal people, which we all are. And that was the thing that I really learned from Richard and the other judges after the whole Voom competition. All of that sort of the idea that I had about them was all stripped away when I found out actually they're just normal people, and we can just talk to normal people like with our passion and with our dreams, and people want to listen to these passions and these dreams. So strip away all of the business stuff that you might have learned at business school or at university or wherever these places are, and just be yourself.
Toby, that's incredible advice. You're an absolute inspiration to me, and I know to everybody else that's in Voom. So it's been such a pleasure, and I'm really proud to call you one of my friends, having met you through Voom myself. So I'm going to leave it with that. I think, you know, you carry the essence of Voom in your business, and you take it out to the world, and that's such a brilliant thing. And I'm hoping that anyone who's listening to this is going to do the same thing. I've learned a lot, that's for sure. I did. And yeah, we'll catch up with you at the semi-finals.
Yeah, thanks for having me on your show.
Thanks, Toby.
Take care, Jess. See ya. Bye-bye.